Hello, my name is Muhammad Wafri Ahmad Fauzi. I am a teaching English as a second language student at UPM. My matrix number is 205953. Today I will be doing a video blog discussing and analyzing the poem Hope is the Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. So let's take a look. So first things first, let's look into a little bit of who this author was. Emily Dickinson was an American poet born in Amherst, Massachusetts in the 1830s. Based on what I read about Emily Dickinson, she was said to be born from quite the prominent family in her community. So her family was very well connected and very prominent. However, she herself was said to be quite the recluse, so antisocial in a way. It was said that she would rarely greet guests, and over time she even refused to leave her house and even leave her room. Even though this was the case, she wrote many poems, around 1,800 poems, though only 10 were published in her lifetime. Because of this, she was not really known as a poet during her time, only after her death. So actually reading about this, I was actually reminded of H.P. Lovecraft, which is another author that I frequently read from. He was also said to be a recluse, eccentric, and also only became famous after his death. This isn't about him though, this is about Emily Dickinson and her poems. But what I do note is that from these authors who are said to be, you could say, social outcasts or shy, antisocial, reclusive, they usually have the most insight or have the most thoughts about life and the world as we know it. Not to say the most, but they have a lot of time to really think and meditate on issues that they care about. Usually they become writers or artists, and they express themselves through these various mediums. And this is the case with Emily Dickinson. Among her work that I have researched, her themes in her poems usually involve spirituality, death, immortality, aesthetics, the soul, and various other topics related to that. So we'll be seeing a lot of that in the poem Hope is the Thing with Feathers. I think it fits very much with her repertoire. These are the types of poems that she was writing. We are going to be continuing with a short recitation of this poem. Hope is the Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. So this is a beautiful poem by Emily Dickinson. You can see from what is written, hope is one of the main subjects, and we could say that the theme is hope and its role of hope in driving humans, or how hope influences us and motivates us to continue on. About this poem, it is a 3-stanza poem with each stanza containing 4 lines, and there is very interesting word choice, diction being used in this poem, where certain words they have the meaning of what they literally mean, but they also symbolize other things, and we'll get into that later on. It also uses imagery very vividly. So there are a lot of instances of imagery being used in this poem, and it gives you a very clear and vivid image of the types of emotions that this poet is actually trying to invoke with their words. So it uses imagery of various types, imagery, visual imagery, but also auditory imagery, and also imagery that invokes sensation such as cold or warmth, and we'll analyze this one by one, line by line after this. But in essence, there is a lot of double meanings in this poem, but reading it, you do get a sense of the images that the poet tries to give us, and you can almost see it if you have a big imagination. So let's see one by one what exactly I meant by this. Into it immediately, hope is the thing with feathers. So hope is an abstract concept. It has no shape, it has no form. But how can hope have feathers as described by this author here? So the first thing that comes to mind is a bird. A bird has feathers. In fact, birds are the only animals that have feathers. And we will see more of this in the other lines. The first thing that comes to mind, why hope is being compared to an animal that has feathers. Maybe it's because birds can fly, and hope is something that can make you fly, so to speak. It can make you soar. If you have hope, you can do anything. Feathers are also quite the versatile covering for an animal. If you look into the biology of it, feathers are something that is soft yet strong. It can lift up a bird, it can lift up a being from the shackles of gravity and lift them into the sky. So hope having feathers is just fitting. It is this soft yet strong substance, and it is also this cute yet versatile animal. So hope is a bird, hope is the thing with feathers. Going to the second line, that perches in the soul. Here is the continuation of the bird motif. Hope now perches in our souls. Perches means to stand on, to firmly grip. That is what birds do. Birds perch on branches. So here, hope perches in our soul. So this bird of hope perches on our soul. It is firmly implanted, firmly nested in our soul. It's not going anywhere. And I think that's quite the strong imagery there. Poetic device being used. Hope is a bird, it has feathers, and it perches in our soul. It's firmly in place there. We have hope, and it's going to influence us. So going into the next verse, and sings the tune without the words. This bird that has perched in our soul is now singing, but the tune that it sings is without words. Obviously, birds don't sing words, they don't sing lyrics, they sing bird songs. And bird songs are quite beautiful, especially if you hear them in the morning. Bird songs are very calming and very therapeutic, I would say. But what is it about bird songs? Is it about this tune that is so special that it is equated to hope? Well, I think universally, almost every country has birds. Every walk of human life understands what a bird song is, what that tune is. It is a very beautiful tune. It is calming and it is therapeutic. We can surmise from that this tune that hope sings in us is universal. It doesn't have words. So no matter what language you speak, no matter what culture you come from, you can understand this tune. Hope sings this tune inside of us, and it can universally be interpreted. You could almost say that it's like an instrumental song. If you listen to an instrumental song, it doesn't have lyrics, but you can still resonate with it. So if you have a song, a foreign song with lyrics, you could still resonate with it, you can still listen to it, but you wouldn't understand what is being sung. So if you don't understand it, that would take away from the listening experience. However, if you listen to an instrumental song, it resonates with your soul, with your very being. So I think that's what the tune Without Words mean. It's a song that everyone understands, that everyone can resonate with, and no matter who you are, you know what hope feels like, and the inverse of that, what hopelessness feels like. Everyone knows that. That's why this tune is so touching to everyone. And the final line of the first stanza is, "It never stops at all." So this bird is singing and it does not stop. So if you have hope in your soul, it sings its tune and it will not stop. It continues. It is a continuous enrichment of your life, of your soul and your spirit. Hope is there to stay, and it continuously benefits you. It gives you the drive and the motivation to continue, to carry on, and presumably to carry on through the challenges that you will face, which is exactly what is mentioned in the next stanza, which we will get into. The second stanza, "And sweetest in the gale is heard." So continuing with the bird concept and the tune concept, by itself we would be able to understand what is the sweetest, in what gale, and what is heard. But this poem has continuity, so and sweetest in the gale is heard refers to the tune without words that was previously mentioned. So this tune, I've already praised it a lot, and here we have more affirmation to how beautiful this tune is. It's a sweet tune. It's being heard in a gale. So a gale is a strong gust of wind, a storm you could say. So here we can see that this tune is being sung in a storm. But why would it be sung in a storm? So storm could mean the storm of chaos or the storm of uncertainty. Maybe facing this gale, we have a tune inside of us. You can just see the imagery of this gale. We all know what storms look like. So this very strong windstorm we are facing, but within it there is this sweet tune that is being played. There is hope. Even in the most drastic storm, there is this glimmer of hope that permeates throughout the negative experience, you could say. So that's hope. The second line, "And sore must be the storm." Storm must be very, very strong, very severe. Onto the third line, "That could abash the little bird." So to understand these two lines are connected. And sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird. So abash here means literally to shame or to make ashamed. But in this context, it probably means to silence. And sore must be the storm that could silence the little bird. So sore, usually we associate sore with pain or something of that nature, but sore here means that it is severe, it is extreme. Something that could silence the bird of hope must be very, very extreme and nasty indeed. That just goes to show how strong hope actually is. Hope, even though it is this small bird, it is continually singing and reinforcing you. If you have hope, you can get through this gale and storm. That is what hope does for a person. Here it also does give you some limitations, that hope, even if it is strong, even if it usually does not yield, still has its weaknesses. So Soar must be the storm. So if it is a very, very bad situation that you are facing, if you are in deep despair and in deep anguish, you could lose hope. And people do lose hope. But it really has to be something really bad. But it also depends on the individual. If they are mentally weak, if they are going through some things in their life, it could erode their spirit, their mental fortitude. And this could be something that gives you a sense of hopelessness as well. And the final line in this stanza is, that kept so many warm. And Soar must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. Here is another poetic device, which is imagery that appeals to our senses. Warmth. This bird, that is hope, gives us warmth. And why does it give us warmth? Well, you know, when they say you have that warm, fuzzy feeling inside you, well, that is what is meant here. When there is hope inside you, you feel warm, you feel comfort, you feel support for yourself. And that is what is meant by this warmth. And that is quite the contrast to the previous gale and storm, which are usually cold. And next up is the third and final stanza. So this stanza starts out with the line, I've heard it in the chillest land. So I've heard it in the chillest land. The it here refers to the tune sung by this bird, sung by Hope. And so that gives us some very striking imagery there. You are now stuck in this chill and cold land. You could almost imagine that you are in a plateau of ice, such as Antarctica or the tundra, and it is very cold, very desolate, very bleak. And so in this bleakness, you hear the tune call out to you, almost like a shining beacon in the darkness, in the coldness, this tune of hope. So this could mean that in even the most dire of situations, if you have hope, you can see this glimmer of light. It is almost like a beacon calling out to you, guiding you. So the next line is, and on the strangest sea. This further reinforces that. So when you have hope, sometimes in a very strange situation you've never been in before, you are feeling alienated, you are feeling foreign, you are on strange seas. But if you have hope, you can hear its call. Even on the strangest seas, you would know what to do because you have hope. Third line, yet never in extremity. Connecting into the fourth line, it asked a crumb of me. These two final lines denote that even in extremity, so extremity means the final point, the limits, and crumb here would probably be referred to something very little. You know, if you read literature or even see real life cases, they always say beggars would always ask for crumbs. So as for very little. Never in the most extreme situations, in any case, does hope ever ask anything of us. We just have to have it. It just is, and it sustains us. It is something that nourishes our soul and our spirit. So that is what hope is. So going through this whole poem, the mood is mostly happy. The tone, that is, the tone overall is happy. The mood goes from warm, happy, fuzzy to cold, like in the gale, storm, and the chillest land. So there's the dichotomy there between cold, comfortable, warm, all of that. So looking at the poem as a whole and looking at the background of the author, we've seen hope is the central theme here. Hope clinging to our soul and it being a little bird. So you can see the themes of beauty, of spirituality, aesthetically pleasing things. This is in line with what was said about this poet writing about the themes of death, immortality, spirituality. So this must be something that was thought about a lot by this poet. But taking into account the time period which this was written, which was around the 17th century, the 1800s, hope here could also, at least from my interpretation, mean something else. Here we are to put our faith in hope. So knowing the religious background of the Americas during that time period, maybe we could also see hope as a metaphor, or at least an aspect of God or religion. So having hope, placing our faith in hope is similar to how we place our faith in God for religious people. So it is very commonly heard that we are to place our faith in God, and even in foreign lands, in difficult situations, in whatever difficulty or ease, if we have faith in God, God is said to help us in times of need or in times of ease. And same here can be seen of hope. So that is another way that we could interpret it. It may not be the way that the poet intended it to be interpreted, but at least it is a different interpretation that we can come up with. So in conclusion, I could also see this poem as a archetype story, as the hero archetype. That is, usually hero stories, they deal with obstacles and tribulations. However, they have the spirit to carry on and face these obstacles, and ultimately they are rewarded for their perseverance. And I think that that could be a good takeaway from this poem, the message that is conveyed by this author, that if you are to have hope, you can overcome any obstacle, you can be motivated, and you can persevere. And I think it is quite an important message, quite a relevant message, especially in today's climate of pessimism and nihilism. Going back to these old stories, these old adages, and looking at the values that they propose. Some of them are quite deep and philosophical, and I think it would be very beneficial to adopt and actually look at what these pieces of art are trying to convey. And I think that messages like these are actually timeless. And so overall, beautiful poem, very deep meanings, beautiful imagery being conveyed there, and very, very lovely experience reading this poem. So that was my review of the poem Hope is the Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. So it was a very lovely poem, very deep and philosophical in its meanings, and I love the various imagery given here. I could really see the cold lands and the warmth that is represented by hope. So I did this vlog for an assignment for my teaching English as a second language course in critical literary analysis. So for my thoughts on this assignment, it is a very interesting assignment. Me from last year, or from several years before probably wouldn't agree, but I've gotten used to making videos and stuff and presenting. So doing videos before this, I was probably a lot more shy during the first semester, but now being given this assignment, I think these video assignments are quite fun. I quite enjoy them, and ultimately I like this assignment, and I think things like this would be pretty beneficial, especially as an English teacher going into class. This could be something that I could assign to students or use as reference. So that's all from me. Assalamualaikum, and have a nice day, everyone.